and talk about not only Guru's message but also how it was transmitted. You know, the Guru's writings are all in verse, and the Guru Granth Sahib itself is in verse, and so the compositions were all intended to be sung as well as understood and contemplated on. And so my next speaker is Bhai Kirit Singh Ji, who will be doing this. He's just run off a little toilet break. But what it is we have this rich Sikh musical tradition, and for the most part it's often we don't see it. A lot of it is often lost, and that's where Bhai Kirit Singh's research, he's a researcher, an academic, and a historian, looking at the evolution of the Kirtan tradition. Through his PhD research at SOAS, he looks into the way in which Kirtan has evolved over time. He's recently returned from both sides of the Punjab, from the Pakistani and Indian side, doing first-hand, on-the-ground research, actually filming a feature-length documentary about Kirtan and the evolution of it. Specifically, his focus is on the Rubabi tradition, about the legacy of Bhai Mardana, the Guru Nanak Dev Ji's companion, and the ways in which that family, that lineage is now continuing, and the ways in which that we still practice Kirtan on a day-to-day basis. So I do have great honour introducing him to the stage. Kieran, is he ready? Norris, he'll be here in a short moment. I just wanted to introduce him. He is a fantastic individual, and I'm sure his speech will be amazing.
Okay, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to the Cambridge University Sikh Society and to Raj Singh for inviting me to speak here today. It's a wonderful opportunity to remember on the 550th anniversary of Baba Guru Nanak the beautiful legacy that he's left us and the value of his teachings to the world. And so I missed my own introduction. I'm sure Virji said that I'm doing PhD on the musical tradition of Gurbani Kirtan. So today I'm going to be speaking on the musical legacy. This is the tradition that we're all very familiar with, the Gurbani Kirtan tradition of Guru Nanak. I think this has a lot to teach us, and I hope that there'll be a lot of new things in there for you all to learn. I certainly feel very fortunate to be researching on this topic. I know it's afternoon and I'm sure you're all very lethargic after lunch, so I just encourage you to wake up a little bit, pay attention, because I think there's a lot of value to be taken from this presentation. I'm not trying to big myself up or anything, I'm just... So, I'm sure many of you can finish this sentence when we say Baba Nanak Shah Fakir, Hindu ka Guru, Musalman ka Peer. And this kind of highlights the fact that Guru Nanak belonged to no one, and yet he belonged to everyone. I've included some of the early miniature painting representations of Guru Nanak, where we see in some pictures he has a blue chola like a Sufi master. Sometimes Babaji is portrayed with earrings when he's alongside the yogis. Babaji has this seli topi, again, something from the Sufi masters. Sometimes Babaji has tilak associated with Hindu tradition. So at once, Guru Nanak was a guru to the Hindus. He's seen as an extension of the Bhakti movement in the tradition of saints like Kabir Ji, Ravidas Ji, Ramanand Ji, all these Bhagats whose poetry is in the Guru Granth Sahib. Baba Guru Nanak is also seen as an extension of that movement. So he's owned by the Bhakti movement. He's seen as an Avdhut, which is a very high level of a kind of yogic master in the Nath Sampradaya, the yogic tradition of one of the main yogic traditions in North India. They see Guru Nanak, they see Guru Ramdas as Avdhuts, have made a masters in their lineage also. Guru Nanak is a peer to the Sufi tradition, to the Muslims, Today in Pakistan, if you go, many people regard Guru Nanak as a peer of their own tradition. When he visited Sikkim, north-east India, the Himalaya regions, Babaji worked a miracle in that he created such a scenario that the lake never freezes, even though it's such cold temperatures and at high altitudes. This lake is still called Guru Domar, Guru, named after Guru Nanak. And to them, to these Buddhist monks, Guru Nanak was a Lama. A Lama, again, is a high master in the Buddhist tradition. So, the point I'm trying to get at is that Guru Nanak belonged to everyone and yet to no one. He was beyond all of these and yet he was belonging to everyone. And the musical legacy of Guru Nanak also represents this pluralistic view. So the musical tradition which he left us incorporates elements from the Bhakti Kirtan traditions. These are old Kirtan traditions that predate the Sikh Kirtan tradition. And Sikh Kirtan has adopted elements from that. We find elements of the Qawwali, the Sama, the sacred sonic tradition of the Sufis. We find elements of Qawwali in Kirtan. We find elements of regional music traditions of Punjab. So Gurbani Kirtan is not just one thing, it has a very vast repertoire of styles which incorporate elements from various traditions. So this picture we have here is Babaji sitting in a gathering with some yogis on the left. You can't see fully, but we see, interestingly, Babaji's companion, Bhai Mardana, in a very active pose. He's just reaching up to his peg of the rabab. He's just about to tune his rabab as Guru Nanak is about to recite a shabad, a musical revelation to share with the yogis in this portrayal. So Guru Nanak himself was also a musician. He had these what we call shabads today. They're all of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's revelations, barring, for example, Japji Sahib and a few other compositions. They came all through rag, through melody, through music. That was Guru Nanak's medium, as he found something in music which could touch the people, could reach the people. Music is something universal. And I think that's very powerful. We find in the Janam Sakhi traditions, often these paintings, these early portrayals of Guru Nanak go with the Janam Sakhi stories. So the Shabad, which Guru Nanak will be reciting, is given some kind of context in the Janam Sakhi tradition. We see that in this particular example, he's in a context surrounded by the yogis. So these Shabads were for a particular audience, in a particular time and a particular place. Not only did Babaji create his own musical revelations, not only did he sing his own Bani, the Bani which was revealed to him, but he went and collected the Bani of the pre-existing Bhagats who had spoken the truth already. So we find Guru Nanak visits the shrine of Baba Sheikh Farid in Pakpatan to collect the Bani to find what Sheikh Farid Ji had shared, and then that came to be included in Guru Granth Sahib. Same with the Bani of Bhagat Kabir Ji. So many of the other saints from Hindu and Sufi traditions have been included. So Guru Nanak was also interested in collecting that Bani. And if you look at it, the Guru Granth Sahib itself is it's almost like a musical anthology. 95% of Gurbani is in rag, in music. And that's a big thing. If the Sikh tradition is revolving around the Guru Granth Sahib is 95% music. What can we say about the music of Guru Nanak? Guru Nanak Dev Ji composed in various genres. So most of the shabads which we hear are known as padas. Chopade, dopade, tipade, panchpade, khatpadi, ashtpadi. These are various genres of pade. These are stanzas of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 8 verses, for example. And this was a very ancient tradition of singing. The pada gayan comes from a very old style of devotional singing. He composed in chant. We have chants in Guru Granth Sahib. We have sloks, which are also known as dohas, just couplets, rhyming couplets. We have the var tradition, the pauri tradition, asadi var, sarangi var. This is a regional tradition of Punjab. Sadly, not many people are able to sing this var gaiki, this var style of singing today. He also composed in songs which were, again, being sung in Punjab at the time. So when a boy is born, when a marriage takes place, when a death happens, these regional songs that used to be sung, such as the Kodiyan, when the barat is happening, the groom is sitting on the horse, Kodiya was sung. On a death, Alaniya was sung. It was a song of lament. And these are songs which Guru Nanak appropriated. He took these songs and he composed his own Alaniya. He composed his own Kodiya. So it's a rich tradition. He was using so many different genres, just if we look at the genre. If we look at rags, the melodic modes that Guru Nanak Dev Ji used, we have 18 different rags. Asa, Basant, Pairo, Bilaval, Behagra, Tanasri, Gauri, Maj, Maru, Malar, Prabhati, Ramkali, Sarang, Sorat, Suhi, Tilang, Tukhari, Vadahans. These are just the main rags. Within these rags, you have variants. Gauri, Gwaderi. Asa, there's multiple forms. Basant, Basant Hindol. So we have such a rich tradition of music associated just with Guru Nanak also. If we look at rhythm, the rhythms used in Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Bani, again, very diverse. Certain compositions, if you look at Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Aarti, everyone knows, most people here, we have a largely Sikh audience, will be familiar with the Aarti composition. And yet, many people may not know that it's composed in a chand of 5. Gagana mai thal rav chand deepak bane. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. There's a chand, there's a rhythm which has musical implications. When you sing that, it comes into a tal of 5 or 10 or 15 multiples of 5. If you look at the first Shabad in the whole of Guru Granth Sahib, Siri Rag Mahela Pehla, Har bin ji o jal bal jao, har bin ji o jal bal jao, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 is a chant of 7. Moti ta mandar usare ratani ta ho jadao. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Who is singing this Shabad in the correct rhythm? Most people are not even aware. It's a rich tradition. So, I've been fortunate enough to conduct fieldwork. I just finished the second year of my research and spent 5 months in India doing fieldworks, spent 1.5 months in Pakistan doing fieldwork on this topic. So I've tried to include various snippets, video snippets of some of the subjects that I've been working with, interviewing. So here we have a snippet of Bhai Kirit Singh, who is a 13th generation exponent of Kirtan, of Gurbani Kirtan. His ancestor, Bhai Sadharan, was a companion of Guru Nanak. This is someone in the family lineage whose ancestors were with Guru Nanak. And these family lineages hold repertoire, some of the original compositions which the Gurus themselves sung. How many of us are privileged to have heard these compositions? Sadly, probably not very many of us. Because most of the Kirtan that we hear sung today is compositions that have been composed on maybe a Bollywood tune. Sad but true. So in this video clip we have Bhai Kirit Singh, 13th generation exponent of the Gurbani Kirtan tradition, singing Guru Nanak Dev Ji's last tune, last melody. This is the Alania. It was a song of lament to be sung at the time of death. So this is said to be the original tune, how Guru Nanak Dev Ji would have sung the Alania himself. So something you may want to pay attention to.
It's Guru Nanak's last couple. Look at the antara. It touches the heaven.
So, how often do we hear Kirtan with this kind of passion in the Gurudwaras today? This is a question I like to ask. You know, Bhai Sahib is singing here, Kataji Chalaya, the soul has left. This is the song of Alania. And this repertoire, this style, this movement of the hands, people say, oh, this pagal banda hai. What's he doing, you know? But it's become so unfamiliar that we're judging it in this way now. It's just a thought that I want to leave you with. So, obviously, a big part of the musical tradition, the musical legacy of Guru Nanak, relates to his musician companion, Bhai Mardana. So, Bhai Mardana was firstly a musician, he was a disciple of Guru Nanak, and he was a companion. So I just want to break these three things down. If we go back to the last picture I portrayed where Mardana is just about to tune up his rabab, in the Janam Sakhi tradition, so many times Babaji says to Mardana, he says, Mardaniya rabab ched, bani aayi hai. He says, start plucking your rabab, I've had a revelation. And this black and white image you see in the middle is a rabab which was held in Patna Sahib up until 1984 and was said to be the rabab of Bhai Mardana. In 1984, when the riots were taking place, this rabab was destroyed. So it's no longer extant, but the scholar Sardar Balbir Singh Kamal had the privilege to see this rabab and document, and he says that this was said to be the rabab of Bhai Mardana Ji himself. So we have some kind of idea that it's a smaller version of the later rabab, something which would have been portable, because of the four udasis. It had to be something which they could reasonably carry on their many years of journeying by foot. So this is supposed to be the rabab of Bhai Mardana Ji. Bhai Mardana was from a family of Mirasis. And today, Mirasi has a slightly negative connotation. It's seen as an insult in Punjab, a slightly derogatory term. But these Mirasis were hereditary musicians, so music was almost in their blood. Not literally, but almost, because they were brought up in families of music, and all they did was sing music. They would keep the genealogies, the family trees of their patrons, the people that used to give them patronage money and food on special occasions, and they would recite the genealogies of their patrons. So they would keep records of the ancestors of the Gurus. This is why Tike Ki Var, which Virji mentioned, the Var composed by Satya Balwant, is a genealogy of the Gurus, the lineage of the Gurus. This is what Marasis used to do. They would receive food and money on special occasions from their patrons in exchange for the services that they used to provide. They used to do music and they used to recite these genealogical trees. So Bhai Mardana ji came from such a family of Mirasis. He was also a disciple, so difficult for us to think of it in the modern terms of what we see Sikhism as today. But early Sikhism was made up of Hindus and Muslims. The Sikhs of Guru Nanak were Hindus and Muslims. Difficult something maybe for some of us to understand today. So Bhai Gurdas ji in his Vars has, this is the 11th Var, 13th Pauri, where he has the verse is called Sikh Namavali, a list of the names of the Sikhs of Guru Nanak. And one of the lines in this Pauri is Palla Rabab Vijayanda Majlis Mardana Mirasi. So he's listing Mardana as one of the Sikh, the disciples, one of the Gur Sikhs of Guru Nanak, and he's saying he plays the Rabab very well in the majlis, in the groups, in the gatherings that Guru Nanak Dev Ji had. And his name was Mardana, and he was a Mirasi. There was other Muslim disciples of Guru Nanak. Daulat Khan, the Nawab of Sultanpur Lodi, the area, he was also a disciple of Guru Nanak. He went on to become the Nawab of the Lahore province later. We have Rai Bular Patti, he was a Muslim Rajput who gave 18,000 acres of land, what we now call Nagana Sahib today. He gifted that land to Guru Nanak because he saw Guru Nanak as a peer, as a saintly person for him. So he was also one of the Muslim disciples of Guru Nanak. Beyond being just a disciple and a musician, he was also the companion. So we know that Bhai Mardana ji spent 47 years by Guru Nanak Dev Ji's side. 47 years. This is a large part of anyone's life. He was 10 years older to Guru Nanak, and yet he was a disciple. He's from the same village, Rai Poidi Talwadi, and he died with Guru Nanak on one of the Udasis to Baghdad. When Guru Nanak went as far as Baghdad, on that particular Udasi is when Bhai Mardana ji got ill with fever and died in the lap of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And he was buried. He asked, Guru Nanak Dev Ji actually asked him, what should I do with you when you die? And he said, Guru Nanak, only you know. I can't tell you what to do. You know what to do with me. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji buried him as a Muslim, as Bhai Mardana ji was a Muslim. His grave is there in Khurramshahr today, which is en route to Baghdad. And this particular miniature painting we see on the right hand side is a portrayal of Guru Nanak Dev Ji coming back from that Udasi, giving condolences to the son of Bhai Mardana, family of Bhai Mardana, Shehzada, who's bowing before the Guru. And it said that Shehzada then became the Rababi, the musician who would then accompany Guru Nanak for the rest of his life. So that's that image on the right hand side. So we've got another video snippet. There'll be various video snippets today. And this is, again, a clip of Bhai Baldeep Singh Ji singing some of the other original compositions of Guru Nanak. So what I want you to pay attention to is the style. You see Bhai Sahib gives some kind of action of how Rabab would be used to accompany these particular melodies. This is the era of the Rabab. So just a few compositions.
Guru Nanak's dhun, and look at the way the composition is. You have no space for anything. It's one organism. So this is the music of the era when only Rabab was.
Okay. So, moving on now, I'm looking at something which we no longer really have extant today. This is the Rababi tradition. This is the tradition of Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana. And this is sadly something which we don't really see around us anymore. So, the lineage of the Gurus established this tradition. After Bhai Mardana, Bhai Shahzada, who took over after Mardana Ji's death, we have a sequence of different families of Rababis who got attached to the various subsequent Gurus. So, we already had mention of Bhai Satya Balwand. True Rababi is Bhai Satya Balwand, whose Var is also included in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. They were the court Rababis, they were the Rababis of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Amar Das Ji, Guru Ram Das Ji, and Guru Arjan Dev Ji. 4 Gurus, linked with the traditions of where these Gurus were based. So from Guru Nanak Dev Ji in Khadur Sahib, which is where they started, going on to Govindpal Sahib, Amritsar, and Darbar Sahib. These are the Rababis of that time. Then you had Bhai Babak, you had Bhai Natha Abdullah of the Tari tradition of Guru Har Gobind Sahib. You had Bhai Sadhu Madhu of Guru Tegh Bahadur and Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So he established a tradition. When you have this tradition of these Rababis, these Mirasi musicians, staying with the Gurus, a tradition was created. And this is what we call the Qaum, the community. They became distinct from the Mirasis. Historically, there was the Mirasi community. From the Mirasi community was born the Rababi community because of the affiliation with the Sikh Gurus and the Sikh tradition. This has gave birth to the Rababi Qaum or the Rababi tradition. In a way, they were socially distinguished and elevated. Mirasi was kind of considered a low caste, but through their association with the Gurus, they were given the title Bhai, which is a big thing. They were brothers to the Gurus. Guru Nanak Dev Ji aap Bhai Mardana nu Bhai kehnde san. So it was kind of a very uplifting thing for the Rababi community. They no longer had to affiliate themselves with the courtesan tradition of dancing girls, where they would play sarangi and tabla to entertain patrons. And that was, again, kind of giving them some kind of social upliftment. They no longer married into the wider Mirasi community. So they only married within the Rababi families. So they started to consider themselves a distinct community. And when we say Hindu ka Guru, Musliman ka Peer, these are the Musliman for whom Guru Nanak was a Peer. These are the Muslims who considered Guru Nanak Dev Ji a Peer. We think of this saying, we think, oh, it's a saying, but this is the reality. This is that community who regarded the Gurus as Peers. We have an example of, I was reading an interview of a Rababi Tufail Farooqi, who's a very famous film director in Pakistan after partition, and he writes about his granddad, Bhai Saindita, who was the Darbar Sahib Kirtani. His granddad, Saindita, used to do Kirtan in the Golden Temple. And he says when his granddad used to wake up, first thing he used to say is, Hey Guru Angad Dev, Hey Guru Nanak Dev. He took the name of the Gurus first thing in the morning. So just an example of the kind of devotion that the Rababis had for the Gurus. As I said, there was various families which were attached to the Gurus. So the Rababis they have a kind of social organization structure. There was 5 khandans or families attached to Mardana, Satya Balwand, Bhai Babak, Natha Abdullah, and Sadhu Madhu. These are the 5 main families whose descendants remained Rababis over the centuries. Beyond that, they had 12 goats, or pattis. Pattis like the shares, how they would split their earnings amongst them. And these goats were the Kaduri Rababis from Kadur Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Satya Balwan, that lineage. You had the Gele, the Devke, the Dabbe, Manaviye. Virji mentioned Manawa. Manawa Pind, the village near Amritsar of Bhai Lakhu, right? The Rababis of Manawa were very famous. They were Darbar Sahib Kirtanis. So Bhai Chand, the Rababi, came from Manawa. They used to do Kirtan at Chairta Sahib and in Darbar Sahib. So they had these 12 goats as well, which gave them some kind of organizational structure amongst their community. Another thing which many of you may not know is that if we go back 100 years, the Kirtan from midday until last thing at night was done by the Rababis. So from Asadivar, 1, 2 in the morning, depending on the time of year, Kirtan was done by the Ragis up until midday. There was 7 jonki, 7 sittings. And then from midday, there were 7 sittings of Rababis taking the time till night. So you had the Ragis in the morning, and you had the Rababis in the afternoon. So these were jonkis that were allocated to these families. The first jonki of the Rababis was the Amritsariya Rababi jonki. The last one was the Shikarpuriya jonki. So the Rababis from various places had been allocated these slots as their daily duty. It was their duty to be there at that time to do the Kirtan. And this particular image is a sketch from 1862, I think, by a Britishman, William Simpson, who visited Amritsar, and he obviously found something interesting in the Golden Temple, and he started to paint or sketch some of the subjects. And this is a Rababi, you see, he's labeled it Musandi Rababi, who was a musician of the Golden Temple in the 1860s. So it gives us a very lifelike portrayal, almost taking us back in time. Who would have been doing Kirtan at that time inside the Darbar Sahib? This is one of the Rababis, and you see the type of Rabab, different to the Rabab of Bhai Mardana, had evolved, had become bigger. This is the instrument that no one's playing today. So again, this is another picture of that same type of Rabab. And this Rabab is most likely to have come into the Sikh tradition by the time of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. So actually Akbar, the Mughal emperor, was the co-equal with Guru Arjan Dev Ji. So the Badshah of India at the time of Guru Arjan Dev Ji was Akbar. And Akbar's court musicians were legendary, with names like Mian Tansin, probably one of the most famous Hindustani musicians in history. And Akbar, with his whole array of courtiers, which would have included his Nau Ratan, his 9 gems, his musicians, his poets, his calligraphers, among whom Tansen was present, visited with his whole entourage. He visited Guru Arjan Dev Ji, and it's written in a Persian source that he heard recitation of Gurbani, and he was very pleased upon hearing Gurbani. So we see a cultural exchange between the Mughal court and the music that was happening there and the courts of the Gurus. And in fact, this particular Rabab is the Rabab that was used in the Mughal courts also. It's known as a Drupadi or Senior Rabab. So this particular Rabab was used not only in the Mughal courts, but in the Guru's court. So there's a cultural exchange. Drupad, particular style of, the oldest surviving style of Hindustani music, was sung in Mughal courts and was also sung in the court of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. No coincidence, there was cultural exchange. Okay. Another video snippet, just so that I'm not talking anymore. This is a video snippet of Ustad Tariq Khan Sahib. So many of you may be familiar with tabla. Anyone who's a tabla enthusiast will have heard the name of Ustad Tariq Khan. He's probably one of the 10 most famous tabla players in the world. From Pakistan, Punjabi tabla player. And it just so happens that he descends from a family of Rababis. His Nanaji, the Nanaji of the person that we're about to see in the video, was a Kirtani in the Golden Temple by Chanan. Okay, so this is someone from that tradition who's going to tell us a little bit about what he remembers of the Rababis. And I'll let you just listen to the clip.
मगर वो बुजुर्ग सन कमाल जिन्होंने सारे पता से जब ये नाम दसदे सन ये साडे संतां दा नाम नहीं समझो देखो किस गल ये सिर्फ टेक्निक से कर दे बकायदा दर्द सन कथा कर सन कथा में रही कौन बात तो कथा कर दे सन तो कथा और दस सकदा है मैं बोलो जो बोलो मैंने तो बार कथा हो सभी तो ये कहना वाला दस सन के अपने भरावां नूं अपने सिंघां नूं अपने दोस्तां नूं अपने लोगां नूं एजुकेट करदे सन समझा ना तो इस करके ये नॉलेज इस खानदान में बहुत है गुरु के बारे और गुरु जी के बारे कमाल का नॉलेज ये नॉलेज वो वैसे मिस करेंगे क्यों वो लोग नहीं है मगर वो
So, this is perhaps challenging maybe what we're assuming about the Rababis. They were just musicians, they just did Kirtan. No. The Rababis were custodians of stories from the time of the Gurus. They were the families that had lived with the Gurus. They had intangible cultural heritage which no one else had. They would know how to do katha of a particular shabad because their ancestors were there when that shabad was first sung. So when Tariq Khan Sahib was talking about this knowledge, this is what he's talking about. He's talking about the original tunes which were sung by the Gurus. He's talking about the knowledge which was there, how to play those instruments. So the Rababis consider themselves Sikha de Maulvi. What does this mean? Maulvi is in the Islamic tradition, these were the priests, the people that would explain, they would do sermon, they would do katha. And the Rababis, who we see in this, again, 19th century painting of inside of Darbar Sahib, mid-19th century. You have two Rababis sitting, one playing Duri, one playing Rabab, Dotara. And not only did they do Kirtan, but they would do katha. They would use Kirtan to explain Kirtan as a message. And they had extra knowledge which they could add to that tradition. There's some examples in small villages. If you imagine, you have to transport yourself back, we're in different times now. If you go back to a 19th century village in Punjab, not many people would have been literate. Not many people would have been able to read Gurmukhi. Rababis, sometimes they were the teachers of Gurmukhi in a village. These examples of Bhai Sundar Gyani of Raja Sansi Pind, he was the teacher of Gurmukhi in the village because they had that knowledge. He was also a Gyani in the Gurdwara. He was the one that would do Katha along with the Kirtan. At the time of Basant, when the season of Basant, the season of spring starts in the Darbar Sahib, the Rababis had the role of opening the season. So the head Rababi, last one was Baijan before partition. The Pujaris would come to Baijan, they would present him with a thal, some gur, some money, sarupa, and they would say, Bhai Sabji, Basant Kholo, Basant Kholo. It was the duty of the Rababis to usher in the season of spring. And then they would start singing Mauli Dharti Mauli Akas. When a Sardar passed away, when it was the time of a funeral, it was the Rababi's responsibility to join the funeral procession and sing shabads with the rabab. Ragia da kam nahi si. Only the rababis would go. If you look in old Rehat Muryade, you'll see mention of Bhai Amir's family should be called. These rababis should be called. These rababis should be called. They would be the ones that would lead the funeral singing shabads. Ram simar pachtaega. Why didn't you remember Ram when you were alive? These shabads. Rababis were also considered custodians of the blessings of the Gurus because their ancestors had lived with the Gurus. Some people would come to the Rababis asking for a boon. I have this problem in my life, please give me a blessing. And Rababis would give this kind of ashirvad. Here we have a picture of, again, one of the Rababis prior to partition. Bhai Taba was his name. Tabe Hussain was his full name, affectionately known as Bhai Taba. He was a Darbar Sahib Kirtani, descending from the Khuduri family, from the family of Satya Balwand. Satya Balwand, the Aulad. He was a descendant of Satya Balwand. Bhai Taba, we have a short audio clip. Luckily, pre-partition era, we still have recordings. So this is a Shabad sung by Bhai Taba ji. Quality is not going to be very good because it's from that time. Okay, it doesn't seem to be playing for some reason. Okay, that's a shame. I'll move on because there's nothing I can do about that. So, question some of you may be asking is, where are all the Rababis? What happened to this tradition? This is the musical legacy of Guru Nanak and Mardana. Why do we not have this tradition alive today? So from the 1920s, this is still the colonial period, British were ruling India. You have the arrival of religious reform. People that were influenced by Western ideas. Gurdwara should be run by a democracy. This is a Western idea. And with the arrival of the SGPC. So the SGPC took control of the Darbar Sahib. And one of the first things they did was remove the Rababis, because they felt that we're defining Sikhism in the 20th century in the reflection of Christianity and Islam and Hinduism. All these religions had suddenly start to be crystallized as mutually exclusive categories, rather than maybe slightly blurred. We see the Rababis as a community which happily sat inside the Muslim and Sikh categories. And yet now, under the colonial regime, these religious categories had started to become very distinct. And so you had to be either Muslim or Sikh. So the Rababis started to be considered, well, they're Muslims actually. He's Tabe Hussain, he's not a Sikh. So the Rababis were replaced by Sikh Ragis at that time. So there's a quote here in Urdu. Amritsar mein Darbar Sahib ki wajah se jo Sikhon का एक नहायत मुकद्दस और मुतबरक मकाम है, राग का बड़ा चर्चा है. It's a place of much discussion about music, Amritsar, because of Darbar Sahib. Darbar Sahib की वजह से सिखों का एक नहायत मुकद्दस और मुतबरक मकाम है, राग का बड़ा चर्चा है. मंदिर में, हरिमंदिर साहिब, inside the Darbar Sahib, मंदिर में सुबह से शाम तक बराबर खुदा की हमद वसुना में भजन गाए जाते हैं. So from morning till evening, Kirtan is sung. Praise of Allah, Khuda ki hamd. Praise of God is sung. कबल अजीम दरबार साहब की तरफ से अच्छे रबाबियों को वजीफा मिला करता था. Qabul Azim, in the olden times, from Darbar Sahib, the Rababis used to receive great salaries. लेकिन जब से इसका इंतजाम अकालियों के हाथ में आया है, इन्होंने रबाबियों को मौकूफ करके सिखों को रख लिया है. So this is saying, however, since the management of the Golden Temple has come into the hands of the Akalis, this is not Akali Nahang Singhs, this is the Akali Lehar, the reform movement, people that were trying to reform the Gurdwara. The Rababis have been removed and Sikh Ragis have been put in their place. So this is the start of the end of the Rababi tradition. Then the end of the Rababi tradition, you can say, is 1947 partition, when the Punjab was carved into two and Muslims felt that they had to go to Pakistan, Hindus and Sikhs felt they had to come to the Indian side of the border. So the Rababis of Darbar Sahib, not knowing, you have to remember at that time no one knew what they were walking into. They felt, Hamara Pakistan banega, we'll get this new country, it will be a Muslim state, it will be wonderful. So the Rababis left Amritsar, did a 30-mile trek, ended up in Lahore in absolute poverty. Their job was to sing Kirtan. Where were the Sikhs? There was no Sikhs left to sing Kirtan for. So they ended up in Lahore in Pakistan with no work. The last Rababi Darbar Sahib Bhai Chand, who also left, after a year, within a year of being in Pakistan, he had reverted to selling fruit on the streets. He was depressed because he was he was a celebrity in Amritsar. He committed suicide in his depression within a year. And he was one of the most respected Rababis of Darbar Sahib. Eventually they had to adapt, they had to use their skills for playing instruments, playing music, and they became to dominate the Pakistani film industry in the 60s. So all of the great music directors of Pakistan, Wajahat Atre, Amjad Bobby, these big names of Pakistani film music industry were descendants of, for example, Wajahat Atre, descendants of Bhai Atra, the legendary Kirtani of Darbar Sahib in the 19th century. Some of them took to no jobs just to make a living, become a darzi, a tailor, start a shop. This is how they had to adapt. And with some of the interviews that I conducted with the Rababi families today, they would say that our elders, whenever they used to speak of Amritsar, they would just start crying. Because that was such a good period. And they didn't know what they were leaving. They would say, if they could go back, they wouldn't have left. This is what the Rababi families today, this is the memory that they have. Now, we're coming to the end of the time, so we're just nearly finishing. Most of the generations who could do Kirtan have passed away. We'll have a little clip of someone who I met there, who was the son of Bhai Ghulam Muhammad Chand, which some of you may know, who was one of the last Rababis who, as a child prior to partition, he used to do Kirtan in the Darbar Sahib. And his son has learnt shabads from him. He's still a custodian of that tradition. So we'll have a little clip of him in a minute. I just want to bring your attention to the fact that there was, beyond the Rababi tradition, there was a wider tradition of Kirtanis descending from Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana Ji. Here you have what people may say, these look like Hindus or Sahajdari Sikhs. These are the people that do Kirtan in modern day Sindh, for example. This was a very active tradition. Even in the Darbar Sahib itself, 100 years ago, you had figures like Bhai Lal Chand, Bhai Ramji Jodi, Mridang player. You had Bhai Hari Krishan Ji. You had Sri Hazur Gurdev Ji. These were not Khalsa Sikhs, but these were the Darbar Sahib Kirtaniye. And in fact, Baba Sham Singh, who did Kirtan for 70 years without missing a day, outside the Darshan Diori, outside the Darbar Sahib at 1 o'clock in the morning, every day. His teacher was a Sahajdari, Ragi of Darbar Sahib, Bhai Lal Chand. So again, this is a tradition that we don't really see. It still survives in places that we don't have access to, places like Sindh in Pakistan. The Nanakpanthi tradition of Kirtanis. Before I move on to this clip of by Muin Sahib, I just want to leave some closing thoughts. I think the beauty of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's message for humanity is represented so wonderfully by this tradition of Nanakpanthi Kirtanis, Rababi Kirtanis. You can imagine yourself, if we go back to one of these pictures of these Rababis, these are actually Rababis. You may think, oh, they look like Sikhs. These are Muslim Rababis. So you imagine you have a Muslim Rababi singing a Shabad of Bhagat Ravidas, a Hindu Bhagat, inside Darbar Sahib, a Sikh place of worship. Hindu, Muslim, Sikh. These boundaries become dissolved in this one instant. A Muslim singing the Bani of a Hindu in a Sikh place of worship. What's more beautiful than that? Is that not the essence of Guru Nanak? Na koi Hindu, na koi Musliman. I think this is the essence of what I'm trying to bring home to you all today, is the fact that what this tradition represented is the essence of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Sikhi, his teaching for us, which I think some of us are forgetting. I'll relate the story relating to this image before I close and move on to the video. You see, you have instruments which none of us are seeing on a stage regularly in the Gurdwara. We have the taus, we have the jodi, ate wala tama, we have tanpura. Where are these? Not on the stage in my local Gurdwara, that's for sure. You have four musicians, Bhai Kalu, Bhai Mattu, Bhai Sundar, Bhai Sandal, and yet they're all Guru Sikh Sarup. They have kept Kes, Dari, Dastar. And it's a very tragic story. At the time of partition, Bhai Kalu, the one on the far left with the Taus, who's the head of the Jatha, was about to leave Pakistan. And actually the Namdari Satguru Baba Pratap Singh Ji said to him, look, please stay with us. You're safe here. We'll give you patronage. You have no need. But he said, no, our families are going. We must go. So within a few miles, he left Bani Sahib. He was at Anandpur Sahib. Sorry, this is Anandpur Sahib Rababis. These were the Hazuri Jatha of Anandpur Sahib. Pakalu used to wake up in the morning. Before doing Asa Divar, he would do full Sukhmani Sahib, that part. Then we would start Asa Divar. And he wouldn't have said a word to anyone until he's done his part, he's done full Asa Divar. And then he would break his silence. So the Shraddha, the Bhakti, the devotion of these Rababi Sikhs is beyond question. He left Bani Sahib on his way to Pakistan, stopped by a group of Muslims. And it could have been a group of Sikhs. Could have been, everyone was being fanaticized at the time by the violence. Could have been a group of Sikhs, could have been a group of Muslims. Happened to be a group of Muslims. They said, who are you? He said, oh, we're going to Pakistan. They said, no, you've sung the Kirtan of the Sikhs. You've eaten the Kada Prasad of the Sikhs. You're not Muslim. And they murdered them. So these Rababis were caught in like a no man's land. You had partition, you had Pakistan, you had India. Where were the Rababis? Should they just stand on the border? They were Sikh and Muslim. They had no place. I think with the loss of the Rababi tradition, I could drill it home for hours, but I'm not going to take more of your time. We've lost so much. Who's singing? Who knows what is Yanariye Ke Kargavana? No one knows. Who knows what Tunis Rajiti Tuni? Maujdi Di Tuni? Who knows what is the form of Tukhari, Rag Maligoda? Who knows these things? The Rababis knew. The 9 Tunis of Guru Granth Sahib. Who's singing those? Who's singing Var Paudi properly? The Rababis were. So, don't want to leave it on a negative note. This is a positive note. We have a Rababi in the 21st century seeing Gurbani Kirtan in Pakistan, I want you to overlook the fact that he's not covered his head in this video. This is my mistake. I didn't want to interrupt him in his flow of, we just went into his house and he started to sing Kirtan, and it was so beautiful that I couldn't bring myself to stop him. So please forgive me for his mistake. But just listen to the full passion and devotion with which he sings this Shabad of Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib. This is by Muin of the Manawiye Rababi clan from Manawa Pind, whose ancestors served the Sikh community for over 4 centuries, and who we only have Gurbani Kirtan today because of these Rababi Kirtanis. Without them, we would not have this tradition. So bear all that in mind when you listen to this. So I'll just leave you with this information for those of you that are interested to know more about this aspect of Sikhi, which I think is one of the most fundamental parts of Sikh history, if not one of the most important parts of Sikhi. Then please do subscribe to the Mardana project, which we're trying to bridge the gap between the academic research that I'm doing and for your benefit, so you can learn about this history. We have a YouTube channel and an Instagram page where you can find snippets, and it will, in due course, with the blessings of Paramatma, this will be a short film and highlighting the story of the Rababis and this aspect of the Sikh musical tradition. So thank you again. Sorry for running slightly over time. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.